My name is Anil Kumar and I am with the men's rights movement since the year 2004. I am co-founder of Save Indian Family Foundation, a prominent men's organization and men's support group network. And we have volunteers from all over India, and every weekend we conduct classes for both activism and therapy sessions for the male victims and men's rights activists. So I have attended all the five past international conferences on men's issues, and I wanted to physically attend the ICMI at Sydney, and unfortunately we have the pandemic, and so we have these online sessions. And often young men meet me and then they ask me that how about I come to India for a month or so, and I learn what you do in India, how your men's activism is happening and how you are helping guys, how you are conducting the group therapy sessions. So, but none of the guys ever really came because it's not easy. You have to get yourself funded and you need to have the money to come here, and there are a lot of things which are uncertain. So I will get into some of the specifics. Say somebody from United States or say Europe, he wants to come to India, say let's say 5 or 6 months. So he will get a visa to come and maybe work with the NGO. Our organization is an NGO, so it's okay if he works with us, and he gets a small allowance, and he can stay here for a couple of months, 5-6 months, and he can learn, he can get a feel of the whole culture and how things work and how men think here, and he can participate in some of the activism and the activities, and he can learn directly. So that after these 5 months of learning, he can return back to USA or Europe from wherever he has come, and he can educate more men about some of these trainings. How about we starting an international center for men's communities and education? So this center is like a global center. Initially it can be in one country, say in India, and this is like a small university or a college. There will be a men's community all around it. So the men's activists, they stay around, they hang around there, they have a support group, and then there is an educational center there. So in this educational center, men can study, they can teach each other and they can study different topics, and so that they can get more skills, or it is about counseling. I will go and come to the more details about these topics, but this is all about like creating a male studies university along with different other subjects. Now, can we have that kind of a community center and educational facilities? Is it going to be possible? Is it financially viable to run that kind of a center? I have been a part of global men's movement since last 15 or 16 years. So I have seen the situation in India, USA, UK, Australia and many European countries. When I look at the current situation of men and the men's movement, I can relate to something very early in my life. As a child, I can relate to my childhood, I can relate to my college days, and as I took my first job. Unlike many other people, I grew up in a socialist country. Well, India was a socialist country till almost year 1995 or 2000. India was like an Eastern European kind of a country, and we had everything nationalized, everything was controlled by the government, there was no free market, and that is the situation in which I grew up and I had my education. I could feel the shortage everywhere. That is what is my childhood experience like. First, 25, 30 years of my life. That is what I have experienced. And I will give you a couple of examples, but because many of you may not be able to relate. For example, you want to buy a motorbike. Say my father wanted to buy a motorbike. It will take something like 5 to 10 years. So you go to a company, motor company, and say that I want a motorbike. So they'll say, okay, pay some amount of money as a deposit. We will get back to you. And they will get back to us. In fact, they got back to my father after 10 years for a motorbike. Okay, so, and also you don't have any choice of color or whatever. So that's how the situation was. And I'm not talking about cars, because nobody had a car. Maybe I'll see a car once in, once or twice in a day. That's it. So it was a situation of complete shortage everywhere. Another example is like when I got my first job and I tried to have a land phone line from the government company. It took me 2 years. So I had to apply and I had to wait for 2 years to get the phone connection done. So it was difficult. There was no money available, and there was no promotion of business, and everything was like not going well, and it was all stuck. However, this situation in my life that taught me one important lesson, that it's not okay to have no control over your life. So I wanted to take control of my life. I can't give up control of my life and live a situation where I'm helpless and I'm living in a situation where there's a lot of shortage and I have no choices. But I feel that this is relevant. This is somewhere relevant for, I saw a relevance of this for the men's rights movement. How about we starting an international center for men's communities and education? So this center is like a global center. Initially it can be in one country, say in India, and this is like a small university or a college. There will be a men's community all around it. So the men's activists, they stay around, they hang in around there, they have a support group, and then there is an educational center there. So in this educational center, men can study. They can teach each other and they can study different topics, and so that they can get more skills, or it is about counseling. I will come to the more details about these topics, but this is all about like creating a male studies university along with different other subjects. Now, can we have that kind of a community center and educational facilities? Is it going to be possible? Is it financially viable to run that kind of a center? So, well, now I will speak about the current pandemic situation. Before the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, we used to have three men's rights community centers, one in Bangalore, one in Delhi in North India, and one in the central Indian city of Hyderabad. We used to spend money on the rent and all these facilities, and we used to get the money as donations from our members or with some subscriptions. However, the pandemic changed everything. We cannot now run the community centers, because if the guys gather in our community centers, it's going to spread corona. So what do? So we started innovating. We started taking all the course material, all the therapy and the group therapy and the counseling and the legal education that we provide. We took it online. And we adapted pretty quickly, initially with phone conferences, and soon to be followed with Zoom meetings. And these were very successful. because we could now have the experts addressing the Zoom meetings, so the physical barriers went away. Earlier, the guys in Delhi or Bangalore, they used to get the best quality of support, whether it is therapy, group therapy, or it is the legal knowledge. Whereas right now over Zoom, the guys anywhere in the whole country, a guy can be in a small village or in a hilly area. He's staying in a tribal place, but he has the broadband access and he can get the best quality of education through the Zoom meetings. So this became a big success. In fact, nowadays more than 300, in fact 300 to 400 guys attend our 2 to 3 hour Zoom sessions in the weekend. So we typically do them in the evening time, like say 8 p.m. to 9 or 10 p.m., something like that. Or maybe we start at 7 until 10 p.m. or 11, like that. And so many guys are attending these meetings. It has become a very big success. So we give them some study material online and then they attend these classes. So we choose different topics, we teach them. So education has gone online. This has done a major, it led to a major disruption. You must be aware, like so many companies took their work online, school children are attending online classes. So there is a massive breakthrough it has happened. And these technologies for online video conferencing, these technologies evolved in just last couple of years. On the Zoom and the softwares like Zoom, they were not available 5 years back. Skype was very lousy. We tried using Skype across different cities in USA or in India. The bandwidth was very bad and it was of low quality. But today, these technologies completely disrupted what education is. So it is quite likely that if we can take some steps to create a lot of online education through Zoom and online trainings in a formal e-learning kind of a setup, and we train men across the globe. There will be some differences across the cultures and language and all that. We can take care of that because we know who the experts are. So the experts can speak in Italian, Spanish or German, English and Hindi and Romanian, Russian. They can speak in any language and we can have a common framework. We can start with a common framework for education online. Now, it is generally not that easy to run something only using volunteers. We certainly need some number of people who are paid salaries and they are employed full time. We are in the process of getting to that phase. We will be soon in that phase in India, where we will have a paid staff who will take care of a lot of managing the e-learning system. And we in fact also created a job portal, so different men's groups can post jobs in that portal, and the guys who are seeking a job, they can go to the portal and they can find a job and set up a job interview. Now, what are the topics that can be covered, and what are the steps that we can take? For example, we can always educate young men about dealing with challenges of life, dealing with relationships, money, career, how to take charge of one's life, and how do you develop different skills. So some skill-based trainings can be given. Young men can learn mobile app development, they can learn software development, they can learn about business management or marketing or e-commerce. Women can learn freedom from feminism. In fact, we have all the course material ready for a training on how to contest an election, how to be a politician. And we intend to offer this training to both men and women. So it is possible to have a community and an educational setup if we leverage using the latest technologies of online education and video conferencing and the video based education, if we leverage using these technologies. Now these enrollments can happen, they can be free. If you are a men's rights activist, it can be free, or some of the trainings can be based on a subscription. You can pay a monthly subscription, and these trainings you can access them, and you can have a question answer session after training. And in fact, we can also have a research center. We can conduct research on domestic violence and different statistics and worldwide on different things. Right now the research work is all distributed. It is not like, we don't really have a big library, online library of all the research. We know recently we had a survey in United Kingdom, I think in one of the universities, and the survey was about domestic violence on men. And a lot of guys, I think more than 1,000 guys participated all over India, and a lot of guys participated from India, right? So all of the world guys participated in that. So I think that a lot of research can also get centralized and get into the structure. So in a way, we are creating an educational setup. We can have different departments to deal with, like there can be a department on media, there can be a department on politics, there can be a department on activism, there can be departments on therapy, group therapy, and counseling, coaching. So we will be able to generate some funds because we are providing this education, and some of this education can be also marketed to people who are not men's rights activists. Well, in India, I can always say that we have the best software developers who are men's activists. We have many guys who have degrees from top business schools. Many guys in India, they have worked in Europe or USA for 5 years or 10 years. They have returned back to India. So we have got all the talent to set up this kind of an educational system, and also get internally funded. The students who study, they get some content for free, and some of the education can be based on a subscription, and this is not supposed to be very, very expensive. We already have a center in Bangalore. We already have funds to fund some kind of a setup in the Bangalore city, or somewhere in the suburbs, or outside, within a couple of kilometers of the Bangalore city. Now let me extend this to a scenario where some student from Brazil, Mexico, or Canada, USA, or Europe, he wants to also physically come to this center. He wants to physically arrive at the center in India, and he wants to study, he wants to do some research for a couple of months, he wants to stay here. Is it going to be possible? So because since last couple of years, I often see young men meet me, and then they ask me that how about I come to India for a month or so, and I learn what you do in India, how your men's activism is happening, and how you are helping guys, how you are conducting the group therapy sessions. So, but none of the guys ever really came, because it's not easy. You have to get yourself funded, and you need to have the money to come here, and there are a lot of things which are uncertain. So I will get into some of the specifics. Say somebody from United States or say Europe, he wants to come to India. Let's say 5 or 6 months. So he will get a visa to come and maybe work with the NGO. Our organization is an NGO, so it's okay if he works with us, and he gets a small allowance, and he can stay here for a couple of months, 5-6 months, and he can learn, he can get a feel of the whole culture and how things work and how men think here, and he can participate in some of the activism and the activities, and he can learn directly. So that after these 5 months of learning, he can return back to USA or Europe from wherever he has come, and he can educate more men about some of these trainings. So this kind of a collaboration is possible initially in India, and later on we can also have that kind of a center in Eastern Europe, for example, because we should initially target those places which are not very expensive. India is not an expensive place. Eastern Europe, I guess, is not as cheap as India, but it's still not that expensive as Western Europe or USA. So and we may even try in some rural places, in small cities or small places inside United States where the cost of living is less. So we have to think it like some kind of an educational startup. So let me get down to some of the basics. Like, say somebody from United States, he wants to come to India for a couple of months. How much it is going to cost? Well, I can say that if he is getting an allowance of $700 a month, he will have a very good life. $700 per month for one person. So for 5 months, it will be $3,500, and you just add the travel, the flight tickets and the visa and everything, that is like another $1,500. So it's like in $5,000, a young guy can stay in India for like 5 months in a very good quality of life. Of course, he can't stay in a 5-star hotel, or he may not be able to eat in the best and expensive places. But still, he can always rent a service apartment, small service apartment where he can stay and he can cook his food, he can order food, he can eat outside in a restaurant, and with this money, he can even travel and do some sightseeing, because it can be very boring if all these 5 months is only in one place, right? So in $5,000 is enough for one guy for a stay of 5 months, and then he returns back, and one more guy turns up from Europe to stay in this place. So that way we can experiment with this model, and $5,000 is not a big amount at all. And as far as we are concerned, we will also take care of some of his expenses or emergencies, or maybe his medical insurance, some kind of support, because we think that we are like a family, and so we are one community. So we want this kind of a setup to be successful. Of course, we will always have the infrastructure for research, the broadband, the servers, and the licenses for Zoom or some technologies, and all those things we already have. We can always upgrade them. We can all these things. So that way we can consolidate lot of these learnings and lot of this e-learning system, and we can then have an educational setup ready. So it is going to be very beneficial for men's rights movement, but it can generate some amount of money, because people from outside, they may be paying money to avail some of the education that we are providing. And the research center, if we have a coordinated research center here, so that research center can help accelerate the research on various men's rights issues. So I would like you to think about it. And if this is successful in India and we are able to generate cash, some good amount of money, then we may be able to use that money to fund similar centers in other countries. One thing I can realize here, that any charitable work tends to slowly go towards socialism. So we depend on donations, and we depend on the government and the corporate, and they control our agenda. It doesn't really inspire. For men, what inspires is that you take charge, you take control, you perform, and based on your performance you achieve something. So the same thing has to happen in men's movement. So we have to take charge of the situation. So I will give an example of e-commerce. Of course, we have Amazon and some of the local players in India, and e-commerce is thriving in India. And during this Corona situation, even the small villages, people went to e-commerce. Even in the small villages, they got the food and the grocery items delivered to them, and the startups started, mushrooming everywhere. The small companies for e-commerce, they started mushrooming everywhere. So I often tell to the men's activists in our center that we guys are discriminated by the system, by the society and the government. So how about we keeping the business with ourselves? If I am buying a shirt or a t-shirt or a cap or a shoe, why should I buy it from outside world, which can be very well misandrous? Why can't we buy it from a men's rights guy, right? It is possible. It is possible to have that. So we can start with that. So that is our plan in India, that we try to keep some of the business with us. If I am buying glasses or I am buying the spectacles, so I can always buy from a men's rights activist, so that we are able to help each other. We are able to create jobs for other men's activists. And that way we will have stronger structures, and we will make the whole movement more cohesive. We can also stop attrition of men. We guys really have a plan that we also get into real estate, buy some landlords and get the things constructed for ourselves, because many guys may not have a partner, they may not get remarried, so these guys want to have security, and they think that having a common community will be very much helpful. And in India, our healthcare system is in a very bad shape, and our healthcare insurance and other things that don't work well. So that is also a matter of a big concern for us. So we think that why can't we have a healthcare related business? We have doctors, many MRIs are doctors, and then how about we having some infrastructure or having a pharmacy and all that, right? So we can always create an economic ecosystem for men, along with these educational and research facilities and men's community center, and that will accelerate the learning across the world, and that can really lead to a lot of growth. Now, if I talk about India or the world nowadays, feminists are not finding it easy to thrive nowadays. The Me Too has backfired. India's Prime Minister Modi has banned a lot of feminist organizations. He basically accused them of getting foreign funds to lobby and subvert government policies. In fact, he closed down the bank accounts of Amnesty International. So Amnesty International has to close down its operations. Well, I remember Amnesty International never bothered about false cases in India. False rape cases, false domestic violence cases. It never bothered about them. However, these are all great developments. However, the gender war has not stopped. We are facing attack both from the feminist and the media, and on the other side, even the conservatives, even the traditional people, they are also having that misandrous behavior. They are showing their misandry, and we still feel disposable, and there is literally nothing happening there. So we are under attack from both the directions. And the young men are facing a massive crisis. They are confused, they don't know what to do, and they are frustrated. They don't see a positive future in relationships or in marriage, and have children. So this is a big crisis, and this crisis is expected to grow. And this is not just this boy crisis that Dr. Warren Farrell keeps speaking about. It's not just relevant for USA, Canada, or the Western world. We can see that it is coming to India very soon. Maybe in the 10 years we'll face it. It will just hit on our face. I already know what kind of challenges the teenagers are facing with online media and the addiction to the mobile phones, cell phones, and smart, gaming and all that. And there are a lot of mental health challenges, and these mental health challenges can impact economic prosperity of a society. It can worsen the crime situation. It can even create national security issues in different parts of the world. So we have to ask, what should we do, and what do young men need? The young men today need clarity about their life. They need to see a positive future. So that is what we will be providing them through our educational system that we are going to create. So at least the guy feels that he knows how to figure out life and how he can have a positive life. If he has a relationship, how he can be positive, he can positively deal with that relationship, and how he can get right education to lead a good life. Many young men may drop out of colleges, which we may not be able to stop. So how about providing the young men with the right kind of skills? Because in today's world, the things are changing so fast that you have to keep on updating your knowledge and your skills to survive. So if he can get right kind of skills and he's employed well, so that he feels like taking charge of his life. He feels responsible and he's taking charge of his life. Young men also need role models. So we have to also create a system where they can look forward to a person and say that, okay, that person is my role model. Whether he has a role model in his family or not, the situation will be the best if he has a father at home and he has male role models in his neighborhood, in his family circles, and in his communities. And men need jobs and careers. So I see here that having an educational setup, educational and a global centers for community, men's community and educational centers, they can really give a direction to the young men all around the world. So that's what I would like to say, and I would like you to ponder about this. Maybe you can send me an email or contact me somehow how to be part of this kind of an initiative, and we couple of guys can talk about it in Zoom and decide how to go about it. And as far as it is about you traveling to India, say you want to come to India and stay here, I told you, like, it may cost you around $5,000 to stay with a very good life for 5 months. And if you want to stay 1 month, maybe it will cost around $3,000 because you need to fly, and then you stay here for a month or 2 months to learn how the things are here. In fact, when somebody stays physically at a particular place, especially about men's activism and therapy, the learning is maximum. So many times men from other cities of India, they travel to Bangalore or Delhi to physically be present to learn. So staying with a men's community and for a couple of days or a month or so and learning, it is a very enriching experience, and then the guys often take this learning and they implement it on another city, and we have seen that this has created a lot of success. So I believe that if we experiment like this, so we can have what I can say is that a learning system, a learning organization or a learning system developing inside the men's movement, and after 6 months, 1 year or 2 years, so we can evaluate what worked, what did not work. We go back to the lab and figure out how to reconfigure, so that we get going, and in a couple of years we are really able to make a massive breakthrough as far as men's rights and how we help men is concerned. Thank you. Thank you very much.